So Radhi, I actually want you to tell everyone about your experience with tea in your family, because I realized this when we got married. Actually, before we got married, when we started dating and I would spend time with your family, I started to realize that tea wasn't just big in my family.
Yeah.
So tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, for as long as I can remember, tea has been the thing that we all do together after a meal. Like whether it's lunchtime, like a Sunday lunch that we've all had together, or whether it's after every dinner, we would put on the kettle, we would boil the water, and everybody would sit down with their cup of tea. And usually my dad's telling his dad jokes. And, you know, it's something that I have been remembering so much more at this time, especially being away from family, where I hold on to that comfort and memory. So every time I sip on my tea now, I'm like, I feel like it takes me back to those moments and it keeps me connected to them, even though I'm away from them. And they were just the best times. Like all I remember from those moments are like laughter and coziness and comfort. And I think tea, even if you haven't got that memory of tea, or that memory connected to tea has that comforting feeling. Anything warm, when you put something warm in your hands and you take a sniff of something that smells so wonderful through your nose, and it just brings you so much comfort. And so tea has been a big part of my life for a long time. And also because we never drank coffee growing up. My family's not big coffee drinkers either.
I love how you keep using the word beverage.
It is a beverage because they don't drink either. So it wasn't like we would sit down with like a beer after or anything either. It's like, whatever it is, or like a glass of wine with a lot of families do. For us, it was always tea.
Yeah. And for me, it was, and I love that. I remember that literally after every meal in Radhi's family.
We'd be like, let's put the kettle on.
Yeah, someone would come out and be like, what tea does everyone want? I was like, this is a real thing.
Yeah.
And in my life, it was slightly different because we discovered this when we got together, that we had this in common. But for me, I remember that my my mom would drop me off at daycare. And I'd be at daycare for, I don't know, whatever the early stages and early years of my life were. And my mom would always come and pick me up. And I remember my parents were both busy. Both my parents worked busy jobs, full time.
Yeah.
My mom would have to come and pick me up from daycare, or if I went home with a friend's mom, and then she'd pick me up and then take me home. And my parents were working hard when we grew up. They were both immigrants. They my mom moved to London when she was 16 years old, and they started with nothing. And I'd always find that when she'd pick me up, we'd always come home and she'd put a cup of tea on and give me a cup of tea. And that moment of just us having a little sip of tea together was like this.
What tea would you guys have together?
It would usually be either chamomile or mint. And those were the most common flavors that we'd have. But this is my favorite. On Sunday, she'd make me a chai, like traditional
I'm surprised
Indian
it's not
tea.
like a masala tea.
I was only allowed that once a week. And it would be on the weekend in the morning. And my mom would get those Indian biscuits out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly
And
what
we
you
get those. And I'd only get them on like a Sunday morning. And then we'd dip them in the chai together. And we'd get to have it. And it was literally something I looked forward to. So when we got married, and you'd always ask me, oh, what tea shall we have? Do you want tea? Even in the morning when we meditate, you're always, when I get up in the morning and I come to the room to meditate, you're always sitting there with your cup of tea while you meditate. And
tea in one hand, beads in the other.
and even when I lived as a monk, tea was the only drink that we drank, like at breakfast or at dinner. And so I think tea is I want everyone to realize this isn't a tea. It's not a brand. It's not a company. It's like, it's actually a tool for mindfulness. It's actually a tool for presence. And it's natural from the scent. And, we were smelling these earlier.
I know.
I'm just going to take a moment.
My favorite.
One second.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Even during the day, sometimes where I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed and I go to get a drink, usually if I'm feeling a little bit stressed, I'll always pick a tea to just sit down with for a moment. And also because it's hot, you don't rush it. When it's cold water, when it's like a drink from the fridge, you gulp it down and you could be done with it within a minute. Whereas with hot tea, you have to be patient with it. You have to be, you have to take your time getting through it. And, with teas, the taste also changes as you brew it longer. So there's so much to experience within that, one cup.
Yeah, I love what you said. Everything from the sight to the scent to the sound. I talk a lot about how we have to use all of our senses. For me, it's like when we were working on these teas, we wanted the color to captivate you. We wanted the scent,
the herbs inside
to
the
be
bag,
captivating, the taste, the layers. And so, for us, this isn't a tea. It's not a brand. It's not a company. It's a mindful moment. It's a tool of presence.